Hi, I'm Pam with PJ's Glass Creations, and today we're going to make these really cute, unique garden stake birds. They will add a pop of color to any of your planters outside. So stick with me and learn all about it. Today I'm going to show you how to make these cute little bird garden stakes. They actually are pretty easy to make, and they don't use a lot of glass, and you can use a lot of your scrap actually to do them. So the first thing we're going to do is cut out the bird body. I have a template that I've made, and to do this I use some foam stuff. I don't know what you would call it. It's made out of foam. I get it at Walmart. You can also get it at any craft store. And it really makes a nice template to trace around, and it is fairly durable. So all I'm doing is tracing my bird body. And I am going to cut him out. And I'm going to keep any scraps that I have too, because I'm going to need these scraps for his tail. Now the hardest part of cutting this bird out is this deep curve right here. So to do that, what you really want to do is cut it into sections. So I kind of think of it as a rainbow. So I'm going to cut along these dotted lines first, and then this line here, which is the actual line of his body. And I'm going to take it out in sections. And I have to be honest with you, sometimes I have struggled with cutting this deep cut, and I've used my ring saw. So if you have a ring saw, that's the easier way to go. But I know a lot of people don't have that. So I'm going to start with this outside piece first. Break that off. And sometimes you have to work at it and do it, kind of wiggle it around here, wiggle it around there, before you can get it to actually break where you want it to break. My problem is usually here, right here. It ends up breaking across the tail. Nope, but not this time. And you can see I don't have the greatest cut right here. I'm going to go to my grinder and even this all out, and I will be right back. All right, I have fixed up the edges of my bird. He has nice smooth edges now. And the next thing I'm going to do is my wing. Now this is a tecta, a clear tecta, and one side is kind of rough and the other side is kind of clear. So I want to make sure that the top side of my wing, which in this case, since my bird is going this way, it would have to be this way, is on the smooth part, because I'm going to be painting these with enamels, and if it's the part that has the little ridges on it, it will kind of run along those ridges. You won't get as clean of a paint line. So I'm tracing my bird wing, and just like with the body, I'm going to cut it out. This one doesn't have a bad curve to cut out, so that's a lot easier. And I will take this to the grinder in a second. But I also want to show you, we're going to need a tail. You can see that these have like a 3-part tail to them. And to do that, I cut about 3/4 of an inch. And this is just my scrap that I had. And I'm going to cut some rectangles that are about, oh, I don't know, a little bit more than 1/2 inch. And I know it's really hard to see those. And my lines are right here and here. Then I'm going to also cut here and here. And that will give me some triangles to work with. Oops, I already cut that one. Okay, so now I have some triangles to work with. And I'm going to just round the edges with my grosing pliers, or round the top actually. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to take it to the grinder in a second. So you can see they're kind of the shape they need to be. I'll perfect them in a second. And the other thing we're going to have to cut is a beak. And I usually use either a yellow or an orange for the beak. In this case, we're going to use the yellow, and this is just a scrap that I had, and I kind of almost have a beak shape. So I'm just going to make a cut here. And I think I'm going to nip this edge off, or this corner. Nip this corner off. You can see it's kind of his beak shape now. And I am going to grind the wing and my tail pieces, and I will be right back. So I have my tail pieces ground, my beak is ground, and I have nice edges on my wing. And I'm going to assemble my tail pieces. And to do that, I'm going to put it on either side of the tail. Just one piece on either side. And then I'm going to put a dot of glue right on the tip of his body, I guess it would be. And another one up here between the two tail pieces. And that way, when this dries, I just use some super glue to glue it. This part is attached to the body, and it's also attached to the tail pieces, which will hold it all together as it goes into the kiln. The other thing that we'll need to glue is the beak. And you can see it's not quite just a triangle. I kind of gave it a little shape. Put a little dot of super glue. By the way, if you're using super glue, make sure it's not gel. That will leave a mark. And I'm going to just place it here. The other thing you will need is a white dot to make the eye. This started out at a little less than 1/2 inch. It was just a square. I put it in the kiln on a full fuse. It's just scrap, and I put it in when I'm doing other full fuses. And it will eventually be his eyeball, but he will need to have the little pupil in his eye. So I'm not going to put it on yet. I'm going to wait until I do my enamel, and then I'm going to put that on. But you can see he's starting to look like a bird. Next thing we're going to do is use enamels to paint my wing. All right, I have my enamels ready. I have lots of different colors. I got these from AAE Glass, and it's an easy fire enamel. You can get other enamels. I know Colors for Earth has a whole bunch. Whatever enamel you like best will work for you. And over here, I put some of my birds so you can see the different wings that I've done. And I'm going to start by, let's see, he's blue, so I think I want to put some yellow. And I'm just going to start painting designs on this wing. So I like to put some lines kind of to segment different areas. So I'm going to put a line here. Maybe put another one like it over here. And I might put dots eventually down these lines just to dress them up a little bit. Make this one a little thicker. And I think I'm going to put maybe some heart, maybe some hearts down this one. So I'm going to make, actually I'm going to put a heart here. Just a couple of dots. And then I'll bring them down. And the nice thing about enamels is that once they dry, you can touch them up with a toothpick. If you have it, if it's spreading where you don't want it, or you have a little boo-boo, you can just kind of scrape it off with a toothpick. And I'm going to put some dots over here. This enamel does tend to spread a little bit, so you have to kind of be careful about how much you have on your brush. I also use a dot tool a lot, which I'll show you in a minute. And let's see, I think I'm going to do maybe some blue flowers. Right here in the middle of these two yellow stripes. And I will eventually put a little center to that flower, but I don't want to yet. I don't want my enamels to run into each other. One more flower. And maybe a dot, big dot on his tail with a couple of little dots. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. You can see some of these dots are spreading, that's okay. I can fix them later if they spread too much. And I'm going to put these into, I have a little convection oven that I have in my workshop. You can put them in your regular oven. But I like to dry the enamels and then I can add some more later. So I will be right back as soon as this sets up. This is out of the oven, and I don't know if you can see too well, but these petals of my flower have grown together and they're really easy to clean up once they're dry. You can just kind of scrape off the edge of your shapes with a toothpick. And if I wanted to clean up my yellow line so it was more perfect, I can do that too. It all depends on how perfect you want it to be. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to add some more things. And one of the things that I like to use that I didn't show you before is a dotting tool. You can get them wherever you get paint supplies. And I'm going to use that to make the centers of my flowers. And I think I'm going to add some green dots down the middle of my yellow. And if you're noticing, it's mostly just dots and lines that I'm doing to make these. I think I need something more by my heart. I'm thinking maybe some more blue. I'm going to add another line here. And maybe one over here. It's kind of like doodling. You just kind of go with the flow as you do it. All right, I think this looks pretty good. I'm gonna pop it back in the oven. The other thing that we need to do that needs to go in the oven is our eyeball. And I'm going to use the dotting tool for that too. And the reason I don't put it on my bird first is that sometimes this enamel will run off of the eyeball and then it gets on the bird where I don't want it, and it's easier to clean it off and then glue it onto the bird. So here's my eyeball, or the pupil on my eyeball, and they are ready to go back in the oven again to dry. My painted wing and my eyeball are dry. The enamel's dry. I'm just going to put a couple of dots, just small dots, just to hold it till it gets to the kiln, of super glue on the eyeball and on the wing. And this part is ready to go into the kiln. The next segment is all about how to make this holder or this bracket that will hold your bird onto the stake. So follow along. I know it's a different bird, but same technique, and you'll see how to make this really inexpensive bracket that will work on any garden stake that you make. I'm just using scrap clear glass, and I have a 1 inch by 1 inch piece of glass, and I have two 1 inch by 3/8 inch pieces. And I am just going to attach those pieces to my clear. I'm just using Gorilla super glue. Do not use gel glue, it will leave marks. And I am going to attach my 3/8 inch pieces to either side of this piece and leave a channel down the middle. And the stake that I am using is 1/8 inch wide. I got it from Home Depot. It comes in 3 feet or 4 foot pieces. I did find that I needed to buy some bolt cutters to cut it, but it actually cuts fairly easily once you get that. And if you see here, by doing this, it allows enough space that my stake will be nice and secure in there. I also have some smaller pieces. These pieces are going to go in the kiln, or this piece. And what I'm doing is, when I put it in the kiln, my stake will only be halfway. I'm going to do a full fuse. And then once I do that, this center channel here, the top part, will close up. That way my stake won't go all the way through when I put it on my yard art. Now, I also need to do something so that the glass doesn't stick to this section of stake. So what I'm going to do is, this is just thin fire paper. I'm going to put that over. My stake is only going to about right here, about halfway. And then I'm going to put this over my stake, making sure that the stake is still only going up to about halfway through here. I'm going to put it in the kiln and then do a full fuse. My piece is out of the kiln. This is what it looks like. You can see that my stake will fit in nicely, and it doesn't go all the way through. And being that it's clear, it is not going to show when I put it on my stake. Now to adhere this to my piece, I'm going to use a 2-part epoxy. You can use other glues too. You can use an E6000. This is a JB Weld Clear Weld. It sets up in about 5 minutes and then really sets up better after about an hour. I would still give it about 24 hours. And you need to mix equal parts of this. So I'm going to count to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is my way of getting equal amounts. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to give it a good stir. Make sure that it's all mixed together well. I'm going to put it on the back of my piece, of my bracket, I guess I should say. And stick it on. I'm also going to put it on the end of my garden stake and stick that in there. I'm going to let it cure. And there you see I have a very nice looking bracket to hold my yard art onto my garden stake. It didn't cost me anything since it was just scrap glass, and it really will be very attractive if you're looking at it from the back side. My bird garden stakes are done, and it's time to go add them to my flower pots for a pop of color in my yard. If you liked what you saw, please like my video, you can share it, and please subscribe. You can also visit me on Etsy and on Facebook. Bye.